Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing a video on Superman Lois Season 4. We're going to be talking about the first episode of Season 4. We did a breaking news video the other day in regards to Bitsy's comments about a bold decision that the showrunners have made for episode 1. We're going to talk about that in a different angle as we discuss what could potentially happen at the start of Season 4. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos later this year. Okay, so as I said, we talked about this in a video previously and I believe I was like the first person to pick up on it, but basically there was a video from Superman homepage. They uploaded someone else's video from a convention at the 2024 Superman celebration in Illinois, and so at that event Bitsy Tulloch said this, and I quote, "You guys are not going to believe the first episode, it's bananas. It's emotional, but what they did is based off one of the comics," talking about the first episode. "It's a very bold decision on their part to pull it off for the first episode of Season 4. Now that is what she said, and as I said in my previous video, I take that to mean they are going to take a very bold decision and continue where they left off from Season 3's finale and the cliffhanger with Superman fighting Doomsday on the moon, and I think they're going to do a Death of Superman storyline. Now, some of you guys on that video asked for a little bit of a brief synopsis of what the Death of Superman storyline entails, because not all of you have followed the comics and you don't know absolutely everything that happened. There's also an animated film that you guys can check out in the meantime whilst we wait for Season 4 of Superman Lois. But basically, the Death of Superman story arc in the comics, what happens is it's a story divided into different arcs. First arc was Doomsday, then Funeral for a Friend, and then Reign of Superman. And so how it begins is Superman fights Doomsday, and it concludes with Clark's death. So Superman dies, he's actually dead, he's put in a coffin, and that's where you get the iconic imagery that you're seeing on the screen of, you know, the Superman cape being like a flag that's hung up and it's all shredded to bits. Then it moves on to the second arc, which shows Superman's fellow heroes, but also Lois and his family mourning his death. And so that's the middle bit of the story, and what happens next is there are multiple Superman imposters pretending to be Superman, and they pretend whilst he is actually dead that they are the real Superman. Superman's back alive, but it turns out all of those guys are fake, and then eventually the real Superman actually does come back to life. He is resurrected, he finds a little bit of life, he comes out of the grave with really long hair, a shaggy beard and everything, and he wears the black Superman suit. Now that is iconic, of course. So that gives you a brief rundown of the Death of Superman and what happened in that storyline. So he comes back as a different Superman. He is a revived Superman, and so I believe what Bitsy was actually teasing is that they're actually going to pull that off, and that is a very bold decision, as she says, and it's emotional. And obviously the Death of Superman is very emotional because Superman will die if they go with this, and she says specifically that it's based off one of the comics. And as I said in the other video, I believe this is actually going to happen, and I think it's going to be probably a 1 or 2 episode thing maximum. If they go even bolder, they would do it for like 4 or 5 episodes, but as I said in the other video, it's only 10 episode season, so we don't have much time and we can't be without Superman for such a long time. But the reason I wanted to do this video is because I don't want to just talk about the Death of Superman. Yeah, I wanted to give a bit of context about the story because some of you guys were commenting that you wanted more context. But basically this video is to talk about what is going to happen when Superman returns if they do this story, and we're running under the assumption that this story is going to happen at the start of Season 4, and so that's where we're starting this theory off. And so we're going to talk about the black suit. Is Superman going to come out all hairy and with long hair? Is he going to look different? How is it going to impact Superman and the future of Season 4, and what's going to happen in those later episodes? So let's chat about that. So first things first, let's talk about his revival. So I believe they will probably stick similar to the comics, similar to what you saw in Zack Snyder's Justice League as well. Obviously that is another way that you can kind of learn about the story, because they kind of did it. They did the Death of Superman and they brought him back and the return. And so they had the black suit briefly, and I believe if they are bold and if they want to follow the storyline, they should 100% bring the black suit. And so you could be seeing Tyler in the black suit within the first couple of episodes. As I said, if they follow Flashpoint and the way they did that, they did it in one episode, but that was way too short. So I believe if you want to do the Death of Superman storyline, you got to do it over multiple episodes. So I believe the black suit would come at one point, and I believe you would have Tyler looking a bit scruffy, a bit gruff, because he's just been brought back to life. And so I don't know how he's going to find that black suit. Is it going to be hidden somewhere that only Kryptonians know? Could it be in one of the fortresses that he has access to? I think that could be a possible way of him getting the Superman black suit costume at some point when he comes back. But that's something that the writers behind the show would have had to actually think about, how we're going to get that black suit. Because it's not going to be like Zack Snyder's Justice League where you see like multiple suits and he comes back to life and you see him like pick out a suit and that's pretty much it. I don't think it's going to be like that. And so now let's talk briefly about how I think Tyler's Superman is going to change. Is this going to affect the family or not? Well, clearly it's going to affect the family in a huge way. As Bitsy says, this is going to be an extremely emotional story arc to begin the season. And we already saw the Kent family see Superman go off, and it already looked really dire, with Doomsday looking absolutely unstoppable. And if he does kill Superman, whether on the moon or on Earth, you know, they're going to have to get him back. They're going to have to bury him like they do in the comics, put him in a coffin, have a funeral. That's going to be extremely emotional. It's going to be really tough for Lois and the family, all their friends, and I believe we could see some returning characters in this episode for this funeral specifically. Now, you guys will remember back during some BTS when they were shooting Superman Lois Season 4, most of the cast were seen in funeral attire. However, it must be mentioned that that was a bit later on and Tyler's actually there, so it wouldn't be him dressing up for his own funeral. So ignore that funeral stuff that we saw previously. I believe that is for another character in a later episode. And also the other day during this Comic-Con convention in the video, Bitsy actually mentions that we're going to start right where we left off, so Tyler is going to look the same as we last saw him. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't flash forward a couple of months after, during episode 1, where maybe Superman has been dead for a couple of months or however long they want to jump forward, and that can kind of speed up the time process, because I think a big thing here is you got to think about how many episodes we have. We can't go Superman-less for a very long time, so they've got to make it quick, compact, but also impactful at the same time, that doesn't just feel like a throwaway storyline like kind of Flashpoint did. Obviously, Flashpoint had big ramifications throughout the Arrowverse, which was good, but the actual Flashpoint episode was just one episode, and that was a shame. And so with the black suit coming potentially, and with the funeral happening, what's it going to be like for the rest of the season? How is Superman going to change, and how does it affect everyone else? I think that is a big question. So I believe Superman will change, and I think maybe he's going to be more careful, considering that he just was on the brink of death. He technically died for maybe a couple of months, and then he's back. And so he's obviously going to, you know, play it on the down low for a while. That would be the sensible thing to do. And I think that kind of ties into the budget cuts and the fact that we've barely seen Superman on set. So we've barely seen Tyler in the Superman costume. However, it must be said he is going to suit up again. I'm not saying he's not going to suit up again just because he potentially is going to die and he's going to have to be more careful after Doomsday has obviously defeated him. And you have to remember, in the Death of Superman, what happens is Doomsday is killed at the same point that he kills Superman. So Doomsday won't be a threat after Superman's death. And that's because of Superman's sacrifice in order to stop Doomsday from going around on a rampage and destroying the Earth and doing whatever Lex wants him to do in Superman Lois specifically. So he's not going to be a worry going into this season, because if Superman dies, Doomsday dies. And it must be said that we have seen Tyler in the Superman costume towards the end of the final episodes. We know he's going to be out there. We know he's going to be in some action scenes. But I think it would explain why Superman could potentially be a bit more hesitant to go into battle, and why we might see more focus on the family stuff rather than the huge action set pieces. And now that isn't to say that we're going to have no action scenes. We are going to have action scenes. Bitsy also confirmed that in the video, which you can check out in the link in the description below. But basically, we're going to get less of it this season, and this might be a big reason and a ramification that happens after Superman's death. Now, obviously that is very handy for the writers, that's very handy for the showrunners, because they know of their budget restrictions, especially when they were going into writing this season. So to wrap up this video, I just want to say, I really want to see Tyler in the Superman costume, in the black Superman suit. Yes, back in season 1, we did see Tyler playing a version of Superman from John Henry Irons' Earth, who was in a black Superman suit, so it could potentially be a similar suit to that, or it might be different, but I believe his appearance upon his return from the death is going to be more like the comics, a bit more shaggy. Maybe Tyler has a big beard. We know in the off season he had a big beard, and potentially they filmed a couple of scenes. I don't know if they did that early on when they got him back, and maybe that was the reason why he didn't shave it so early on, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So now, it's really important that you go to the comments down below, let me know your thoughts and opinions. Do you believe this is going to happen? I am almost 99% sure we're going to get the Death of Superman arc at the start of season 4, and I think we're going to get the black suit, because if they are following the comic book storyline that I believe they're following, I think they have to do it, and it would be a huge moment. Fans would freak out, and it would definitely break the internet. I think that's for sure. So for now, if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment. It would really help this video get out there. Also subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. But for now, you can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.